Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? I'm just gonna tag you all really quickly if I can. Okay. Hello. If anyone's around, join me, say hello. I am super freaking excited to share this training with you because this is something that I have had struggled with for many, many years. This, feeling doubtful about my path, about who I was. And I can't tell you, the power of really creating a new story of you is priceless. It's amazing. So, what we're going to cover today is how to create that new story of you, and we're going to go through three specific things. How to neutralize negativity so you can silence that inner critic, how to see and reclaim the truth of who you are, like who you truly are, and then how to take bold actions that align with what you truly desire, your true heart desires. So I remember, gosh, years ago, I was dating a man, and he was really passionate about building and designing, construction, and had, entertained ideas of being an architect. And I was super excited for him. I was like all about it, and almost to the point where I felt like I was more excited about him being an architect and designing and building than he was. And at the time, I was in a place where, I put a lot of my value outside of me into relationships and to, you know, I had to prove myself through education, through careers. And so when he kind of challenged me about, like, why are you so excited about what I'm doing? It planted a little seed of doubt. And I was like, well, why am I? Why am I not excited about what I'm doing? But as I started to look back and see the patterns in my life, it made sense that I was excited about what he was doing because that's what I'm meant to be doing. I'm meant to be, and I am designed to be, and I have been doing my whole life of supporting people and being successful in what their true heart desires are. So, I remember when my best friend was entertaining the idea of going to grad school to become a counselor. I was all about it. Like we were, I was going with her to the welcome information session and like super excited about what was possible for her. And then the same thing, I remember when my sister had a project that she was entertaining, getting involved in, and asking people to support her. I was there writing the letter with her and helping her craft the letter to ask for support. So the power of this is being able to, in me, is owning who I am and knowing that's my superpower is helping see people step into possibility because I already see that possibility. I already see beyond their limited version of themselves. So as I started to own that, then that self-doubt started to fade away. And I really was able to step into and reclaim the truth of who I am. And then from there, taking bold actions for myself into becoming pursuing my coach training, becoming a coach, working with clients, and really helping them step beyond their limited version of themselves and live into a bigger, bolder, more powerful story and in going after what they truly want. So what I want to share with you is how you can do that too. So the first part of this is neutralizing negativity and silencing the inner critic. And I'm going to walk you through because as I've gone through this with clients, my process began to evolve of how I lead them through to that place of leaving confusion and overwhelm, second guessing, doubting, hiding, dismissing their desires to a place of confidence, to a place of courage, to a place of inner security, of that comfort in their own skin and that boldness in who they are and their path, being able to step up, being able to stand out, being able to reclaim their voice and share their voice without fear, without dismissing what it is they really want to say, and in fear of what others might think. So it's really separating themselves from that attachment to the external validation and coming to the truth of who they are. And I'm going to show you how you can do that too. So the first part of this training is silencing the inner critic by neutralizing negativity. This is super powerful. So many of my clients come to me, and almost all of them struggle with that inner critic and struggle with self-doubt, struggle with that feeling that they're kind of a fraud. They're not as smart. They're not as worthy. They're not as successful as they want to be. That's their belief, even though they are super successful and they, of course, are inherently worthy. And so working through what needs to shift to help them really own their worth and value, own the success that they have, own the information that they have within them, that knowledge that is inherent to who they are, as well as the knowledge that they've gained over time. And so it's so powerful to neutralize negativity, because self-doubt can just stop all movement. So the first thing to do is notice those repeating inner conversations that just kind of resurface, and notice the situations and when they resurface. So it could be they're triggered during something that happens at work. It could be they're triggered in relationships. It could be that they're triggered in your body when you look in the mirror, or you have some self-doubt and some negativity or some criticism about what your body looks like. Any of those areas. So those are the big three, like your body and your health, your career and your path, and then of course your relationships. So notice for you, which of those areas do you tend to suffer the most from that self-criticism and that negativity? And then we're going to focus in on that one area. So what you want to do is, once you become aware of this pattern of negativity and self-criticism, is then to capture that thought. Don't just let it like go by without paying attention, just dismiss it. I want you to capture it and really bring it into your full awareness. Ask yourself, okay, so what is this thought? And then this is the part that's really going to help dissolve it, is to ask yourself, where did this thought come from? What is the origin? What is the root? Because the thought is coming from a belief, and the belief is coming from an event, and usually the event is an event embedded in your psyche that happened many years ago, that really became integrated into the story that you've been living. And so when you start to see and do the work to really uncover and discover where this came from, what you can do is you can start to bring it into the light. Because once you bring it into the light, it doesn't have as much power. And what you start to see is you can then take the power back. So you bring it into the light and look at that moment in time that created that belief. So for one of my clients, she had this belief that she had to always do everything on her own. And we really explored where this was coming from, because this really prevented her from not only succeeding in the way that she wanted in her career, but also in her relationships. So we really dug out the root of this belief that she couldn't count on others, that she had to do it all on her own, that people couldn't be trusted, which means she also couldn't be trusted, which means she also didn't trust herself. And we went back in time and saw that she had created this story as a child, that she couldn't count on people, people couldn't be trusted, she had to do it all on her own, because her father had left her at an early age. And she had lived out this story ever since then. As we brought it to the light, and she could hold it with compassion for herself, that as a child, that was her survival mechanism, to believe she couldn't count on people and she had to do it on her own. And as she held that child and that with compassion, she could then see that she no longer needed that belief. That belief did serve a purpose in her survival and navigating her family dynamics as a child, but it no longer served her as an adult. And now she could release it she could thank it, release it, and forgive herself for having carried that story way beyond its uh, function. It didn't function anymore. Now it was functioning against her instead of for her. And as she did this, then she was able to replace that belief with the truth. And the truth was that she is supported, she is trustworthy, that she can count on people, that she knows how to, find the right people to support her, and she can know who to trust and that she can put her confidence in. And that starts with herself, being able to create that confidence and that trust within herself. And as she did this, she started having really bold conversations with her family, because they had began treating her as if, she was just kind of taken for granted, and they could, they could kind of do whatever. She didn't have really good boundaries, and she was kind of a people pleaser. But as she stepped into this new truth, she was able to have these bold conversations with her family, and her family began to treat her with respect. They began to respect her boundaries because she actually had boundaries. And that completely changed how she showed up in her relationships, which also, of course, changed how she showed up in her business. And from that shift internally changed everything. So when she was in that space of owning the power of who she is and the truth of who she is and trusting herself and having confidence, then people began reaching out to her and asking to work with her not even promoting her services. So that's how powerful this inner shift is, and really getting out of that cycle of self-criticism. Then the next part that's connected to this is seeing and reclaiming the truth of who you are. So the gift of the inner critic is that it allows you to explore where these beliefs came from, so that you can root them out, uncover them, bring them to the light, diffuse their power. And then the next part of this process is then beginning to learn to see yourself from a higher perspective, beginning to learn to see who you truly are, and operating from that space, because you are what you do. So your behavior is predicated on what you believe. And so as you begin to change your beliefs, of course, your behavior naturally changes to match those beliefs. And so as you step into this belief, which is the truth of your inherent value and worth, then you begin taking actions that align with that. You're, like I mentioned with my client, having conversations with her family that aligned with the belief of her power and her value and her worth. And really what this is grounded in, and this is super important because this is not new age, just believe in yourself and everything will be great. This is grounded in the truth of who God is and who God says you are. Because God can't lie. It's not possible for him to lie. And so when you own the truth of who God says you are, which, who God says you are loved, God says you are his child, God says you can do all things through him, God says he loves you with an everlasting love, he will never abandon you. That is the truth of who you are, because it's coming from the truth of who God is. And as you really own that internal shift is monumental. That inner transformation is so different from the new age philosophy of just, if you believe it, you can do it. Because it's not true. Many people believe they can do it and they don't end up doing it. So many people end up in the cycle of wanting to do something, believing they can do it, but then it doesn't happen. Because they're dependent on their own human capacity, which is limited when you are separated from the power of God in you to help you complete what it is that you desire, because God's plans for you are way beyond your plans for yourself. And you can do so much more when you have that deeper connection with God and rely on him, surrender to him, believe and trust in his plan, and know it's going to be way better than any plan you could ever even fathom. And as you own that, then that internal shift of how you see yourself changes how you are seen by others. It changes your relationships. It changes the conversations that you're having. It really creates within you a security that is palpable. You begin to be more decisive. You begin to speak up. You begin to really own your space, your presence, and what you stand for. There is no more fear of rejection, no fear of people criticizing you. There's no need to defend yourself or attack others because you're so grounded in the truth of who you are that you're open to having conversations with people that disagree with you because there's nothing to defend. It's simply a exploration, and you're coming from a place of curiosity and compassion because you have that for yourself first. Okay, now the third part of this is then taking actions that align with your true heart desires, because this is super important. Many people, and I struggled with this before, and I'll share some stories of clients too, take actions that are against their true heart desires, or take actions that align with what other people think they should do, or what's important to other people, or wanting to prove themselves or get acceptance from others. And so they're taking actions in order to convince other people of something instead of really what they truly, truly desire. So an example of this is one of my clients came to me and really wanted to do deeper spiritual work with her clients, but had this belief that she had to work with clients on, she had been like an image consultant and had to do something with image consulting, and people wouldn't, invest to work with her to do spiritual work. And she also had this power differential had come into place that she was really, putting her husband on a pedestal and the work that he was doing and kind of dismissing the power of her work. So she really wasn't moving forward, even though her deep heart desire was to work with people in really deepening their path and being able to have big breakthroughs through a more spiritual perspective versus the image consultant perspective. And as we worked on this and she began to really shift, like I mentioned in the process before, of how she saw herself and the value of her work, and then could see what would happen with people's lives, that even the tangible changes in them from doing the spiritual work, she began to change how she saw herself, which also changed how her husband saw her, so that their power differential became even. And he even made comments about the value of her work, which reinforced that belief that she was working on building and reinforcing, so that she shared a video, and just from that one video had several people reach out to her, and one of them got on a call and hired her right away. This was after many, many months of no one reaching out and no one hiring her, because she had been living in that place of dismissing her desires and living in self-doubt. So when she owned her true heart desires, owned that she could create and take action on those true heart desires from the place of who she truly was, the truth of who she was, not from having to prove anything, convince anyone, gain acceptance or approval, nothing outside of her. It wasn't coming from a place of needing or seeking external validation. It was coming from a place of, that is who she is. So she was taking action. Her behavior was coming from the belief of the truth of who she was. So that's how powerful this is. And this is possible for you too, to really go from that place of confusion and self-doubt and second-guessing to a place of confidence, of courage, and really thriving in your divine calling. So if you are interested, I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into this in a 2-part masterclass coming up. The dates are to be determined, and I'll be sharing that with you all in here. And I really want to invite you into what it would look like for you to step into this container, this space of getting private one-on-one support to really guide you out of that place of maybe even sometimes feeling invisible and really hiding and dismissing your desires and living out a story that what you truly desire is not possible, and changing that into not only a story of of infinite, beyond what you've imagined possibilities, but really stepping into a place of confidence, of courage, being able to really take a stand for what you believe in, to be confident in who you are, feel comfortable in your own skin, and to really be that bold-hearted woman who speaks up, who takes a stand, who knows what she stands for and why, and knows the work she is here to do and the impact of that work. As she does that, that transforms not only, of course, her work, it transforms her relationship so that she feels more connected to her partner. She feels more empowered around her friendships and her children, and really her body, like owning her body, her presence, her power, and taking care of her body as the sacred temple that it is, instead of disconnecting and distracting herself through overeating, through drinking, through numbing out, but really becoming a person who is present and honoring all that comes up and being able to meet it all with compassion and have the spiritual resources to navigate the challenges as they come, because they will come. So let me know what questions you have. That is a 60-day mentorship, you and I together for 2 months. We will meet every week, and then in between our calls, you also have access to me through voice messages and email, so that you're not just out on your own between our calls. You're really staying connected, so that you're really living into this, you're really embodying this, you're integrating this into every area of your life. So the investment is currently $3,333 when you pay in full. It's $44.44 when you, if you'd like to have a payment plan, which would be 2 payments of $22.22. And I encourage you to really feel into this of what you will experience, not only as we go through this work together, but also who you will be as you go through this, and ultimately who you're becoming through this process, and at the end of this process of really stepping into your power, of owning your worth and your value, and sharing that with the world in a much bolder way, while also living and thriving in your divine calling and bringing in those true heart desires. So what questions do you all have for me? I'm happy to answer them. If you missed this, you can go back and watch the replay. And I don't see any questions, my friends. Okay. Well, I am excited for you. And like I mentioned, you know, it is my divine calling to really guide you to create a new story of you, to live beyond this current story, and to step into really possibilities beyond your imagination, and bringing those into realization, and knowing who you will become as a result of that, and how that will impact not only your career, your finances, but your relationship, not only with yourself, which is the most important, but also with your partner, your family, your friends, your community, your clients, and ultimately really stepping into being the woman that God created you to be, which there's nothing better than that. All right, friends, I don't see questions, so I will leave you to enjoy this amazing St. Patrick's Day, and know that all that you desire is within you, waiting to be called into realization and waiting to be expressed in this world. And you are the only person who can express that. And I'm here to guide you to do that at an even bigger level. All right. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Bye.